toy fans, Kyle here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Zyuoh Wild and Wild Zyuoh King a little bit later on. This is, of course, the second Megazord, if you want to call it that, of the Zyuohgers, consisting of number 4, number 5, and number 6, aka Zyuoh Elephant, Zyuoh Tiger, and Zyuoh Gorilla. This is essentially everything you get in the box, so let's take a quick look at the box. We can see you've got the Zyuohger logo. You can kind of see Zyuoh Wild. You got 6, 5, 4. You got a big look at Wild Zyuoh King. Shows you all the blocks, all that fun stuff. It shows you the individual animal modes. Down here you got the Zyuohgers, and up here you got them in their cube animal mode. And that's it for the box. It's the same tiny box that Zyuoh King was in. So we can go ahead and put this to the side. Now, everything that you get in the box, you get, of course, cubes 4, 5, and 6. This is the continuation of cubes 1, 2, and 3 from Zyuoh King. And if you wanted to, you can stack them all up. They're all compatible. That's sort of the beauty of this season, is the modularity. What I like to do, I think it's kind of funny, starting with 6, going to 5... I'll get it. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I like to stack them all up. And then it's sort of just like the easiest, smallest way to collect your Zords. Like, back in the day, Zords used to literally take up entire shelves. Now it just takes up like 3 square inches and you're good to go. If you wanted to do that, you can do that. Of course, you can form like a pyramid. And I do believe that when the big final combination comes out, when Zyuoh Whale comes out, these are going to be the legs. Based on the shadow images that was released, it looks like this is going to be the leg formation. So it's going to be huge, and I'm really looking forward to that. So, taking a look at each Zoob cube individually, starting with my personal favorite. This is, of course, Jube. Why do I keep saying Jube and Zoob? What's wrong with my brain? This is, of course, Zyuoh Elephant's Cube. My personal favorite, again. Number 4, a lot of detail. I love the matte green look to it. To transform it into elephant mode, you just take it and you fold it out. And then you take his trunk, fold it out. Then you got to push his head back down. And there you go. You've got your little elephant cube. And he does have a bit of articulation. He can move his head up and down. He can rotate his little trunk or move it forward and back. And I really just like the engineering in general. It's just kind of fun to look at it and to just see the way this little mechanism works. It's really just a beautifully done, very nice ratcheted toy that I just love to play with. And the paint detail on the front is great, and I love this little gold little corner on the top of his head. That looks really cool. Continuing on, we've got cube number 5. This, of course, is Cube Tiger. Again, nicely detailed. It's got some really nice detail, panel lining, and whatnot. And to transform that, it's a little bit different. You just take it and you pull it. His little head folds out. And then he's got his tail back here that also folds out. And I like the way the 5 forms the stripes on the tail. I think that's really clever. And there you go. You've got his little feet. He is a big gappy. And this right here is kind of a mind F, if you will. See the oval? And then you take the oval, and now it's straight. Wow, like that blew my mind. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm rambling. And these claws up here, they don't do anything, which is kind of disappointing. I'm not quite sure exactly what they're meant for. And there he goes. You can rotate his head up and down, and that's about it. And his tail up and down for articulation. And then we've got Cube Gorilla. And I do have to say, Cube Gorilla is a huge improvement over Cube Eagle. Huge improvement. We can see back here, we've got his angry gorilla face. And turn him around to transform him. You just want to take his arms, fold them out, take them. And you'll notice there's a little slider right here. You just take it, and that slides out. Do the same on this side. Slides out, and you got his really long arms. And you can just take him and he can sit there. And that's kind of where this comes into play. You can add his gun, this big, gigantic, ridiculous looking gun that does peg into place back here. And now he's got a super freaking gigantic gun that doesn't even look good. Or, if you wanted to, if this doesn't do your thing, his fists shoot out like that. And my god, another Megazord where the fists shoot out. I can't wait to see how many of these Gorilla Zords are going to be on there. I mean on like eBay and the secondhand market, missing these fists. Because, you know, whoever said that shooting fists was a good idea was just dead wrong. Though I do have to say, there is kind of a locking gimmick or mechanism in cube mode that I really appreciate. And I'll show you that in just a second. So when you take them and you transform them back, you'll notice there's this little cube, this little square piece, and when you close it up, that actually locks these fists in place, so they would never fall off in cube mode, which I think is kind of nice, kind of a nice little detail. And there is that. And he's in cube mode. Now this thing, we've seen that it forms a gun mode. This also happens to form the head for Zyuoh Wild, as well as the chest piece for Wild Zyuoh King. You can also store this, the weapon of Zyuoh Wild, and this also forms the head crest for Wild Zyuoh King. You can store the weapon on this side, like that, and this of course comes into play later when we get the Tosai combination. This will become like a big gun. But for now, you can go ahead and store that, and that is a thing. So, to form combination mode, and by that, to form its mecha mode, you simply just take it, turn it back into its little cubes, and then you stack it up. So we got elephant on the bottom, tiger at the midway point, gorilla back there. Take gorilla's arms, fold them out, and then we take this, and then we want to fold his head out. And we should unplug that for now, and open that up, and that reveals his head. And this just pegs kind of on the back, like that. And also we want to extend the arms out just a bit. It's actually easier to do it like this. And lastly, fold these little panels out, and give him his little gun. And there we've got Zyuoh Wild, and I love the way this looks. It is so much better than Zyuoh King. Like, visually, it's more interesting, it's got more going on. I like that the colors aren't sort of seeping onto the next one. It's just generally a much more visually interesting, just nice looking mecha. And of course, next to Zyuoh King, there they are. And for articulation, you got arms, and you can still shoot out the little fists. So there is that. But, of course, if you know Sentai Mech, they can combine and form something much greater. So, to form Wild Zyuoh King, what we want to do is we want to take all of this stuff apart. We need to fold them back into their individual cube modes. That just kind of makes things easier. Fold that down and just break everything apart. Take the gun, which came off with the hand, put the hand back on. And let's see, just like that. Remove this. We can take this head, it goes back in there, put that to the side, take these off, and now that we've taken everything apart, we're ready to form Wild Zyuoh King. And this thing is kind of silly, like really, really super duper silly looking. So on the bottom, we want elephant. Then moving up, we want lion. And then shark. And then tiger. And this is starting to get a little bit tall. Let's pan the camera up just a weeny bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take gorilla and eagle, and these are going to form the arms. So eagle goes on, I believe it goes on this side, and gorilla goes on this side. And you also need to fold out at least one arm. Let me see if I can. And this is how you want to form the arms. So you just take gorilla, fold that out, fold it back up. And there's one arm, and then you do something similar. But since we've got the auto gimmick on this side, we can just kind of launch it out, fold it back, and there is the other arm. And obviously it's not totally proportional. This arm is obviously his fapping arm, and this is obviously not his fapping arm. So then, continuing, what we do is we want to take Zyuoh King's sword, stick that in the top. Let's see if I can zoom in. Then you want to take this gold piece, and this literally just pegs onto the chest, just like that. And last but not least, you take this gun, it splits up, and then it forms right here to form kind of like a head dressing. And then to finish the transformation off, you want to take Cube Kitty in, and that just pegs on just like this. You'll notice there's a little peg and a little hole. And this adds a bit of leg support and just bulks up the bottom a bit. And we want to take Cube Mogra, which I have not reviewed yet. That video should be up pretty soon, so stay tuned, folks. And again, this just pegs right there. You'll notice there's a little outy pointy, and that kind of gaps in there. And then there's the joint right there. And there you go. There is the Wild Zyuoh King, which looks absolutely ridiculous. Let's just move him back a bit. He is an insane combination, and I don't mean that in a bad way, and I don't mean that in a good way. It's very unique, and I'll give them that for this combination. It's obviously a victim of probably the later combination. It's just kind of like, they're like, what can we do with all these parts? And they just went with it. But it's an official combination, nonetheless. And again, it's interesting for articulation. You can rotate his arms. You rotate his arms if you wanted to. You can take a little sword, a little dinky sword, stick it in his hand. And he can wield that for you, because why not? But I prefer to just jab it back in his skull. Now, one issue, and I haven't noticed anyone else with this issue, but it does like to unconnect right here at the Lion Zord. So it'll like start just leaning forward. For some reason, the pegs aren't that tight on mine. Just an issue I've been having. It's not too bad, not easy, pretty easy to remedy, but that is a thing. So I was looking at this and I was wondering, well, this is kind of an insane combination. I wonder what other secondary Zords we had around this time, you know, kind of mid-season. So I went ahead and I pulled them all out. And I'm going to do a comparison with some other mid-season Sentai combinations. So, starting with last year's mid-season combination, this is King Shurikenjin. We can see, obviously, King Shurikenjin's head stands much, much taller, and it just looks absolutely ridiculous. For an idea of how much bigger King Shurikenjin is, basically the head of Shinobi Maru sits evenly with the head of Wild Zyuoh King. So it's probably a good half a foot taller. Generally, I think that this just has a lot more going on. They're both kind of ugly in their own separate ways. Now comparing him with Shinken Daikaio, or Daikai Shinkeno, I should say, we can see they're both kind of interesting looking. I definitely prefer the look of this Megazord. I just feel like it utilized everything a bit better. And again, the heads are pretty on even levels. It's just the sort of wild headdress and width that makes it seem a lot bigger. And lastly, here he is next to G6. And G6 does just generally stand much, much taller. The head is taller, everything is taller. So take a gander at that, my friends. That is it for this look at Wild Zyuoh King and Zyuoh Wild. I hope you enjoyed this video review, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. I've got a ton more video reviews in the works. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.